presentation and training, I present the speakers, distinguished speakers from Lithuania. VILIJA TARGAMADZE is a doctor professor in social sciences at Vilnius University. Her main research expertise is in the field of education management and quality, social inclusion, education technology, teacher training and didactics. Dr. Targamadze is chairman of the Lithuanian Education Board in Seimas of the Republic of Lithuania, a member of the scientific committee in the Association for Teacher Education in Europe. The second presenter is the doctor professor at the Institute, Zelvys, sorry, doctor professor at the Institute of Educational Sciences. Dr. Zelvys is the head of Education Policy Center at Vilnius University. His research area lies in the field of education management and policy, education reforms in post-socialist countries, teacher education and training. He is a highly experienced professional in the field of higher education, including quality assessment and accreditation, international cooperation and knowledge transfer, competence-based learning, national and international project management. Thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you very much for being in our team in this national reform. The platform is yours. Please, Dr. VILIJA, okay. You may start.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Nice summertime. I hope not only in Lithuania. And topic of discussion is interesting too. I am now in country house, and I hope that connection will be okay as always, but I try to speak slowly. You can see my presentation is Policy and Structure of Doctoral Education in Lithuania. And I will introduce very shortly. Key actors in the field of education policy are the Seimas of Republic of Lithuania. It is Parliament, Government of Republic of Lithuania, the Ministry of Education, Science and Sport, the Lithuanian Science Council, the Doctoral Committee or the Joint Doctoral. Academy of Science, it is not key actor, but very important, and Professor Rimantas will introduce Academy of Science. Lithuania 2030 is an umbrella document on the basis of which other documents of various levels are prepared. The fundamental strategic document setting guidelines for innovation policy in Lithuania is Innovation Development Program 2013-2020. The program has been drafted with a view of mobilizing the state resources for the improvement of Lithuania, innovatives and development of competitive economy based on high-level knowledge, high technologies, qualified human resources, and smart specialization. The strategic goal of the program to enhance competitiveness of Lithuanian economy through the development of the effective innovation system promoting economic innovation. But the main document in doctoral study field is Law on Higher Education and Research of the Republic of Lithuania. Legalization and related documents regulating the accusation on the right to conduct doctoral degree studies in science and art are regulation for doctoral degree studies, regulation for doctoral degree studies in art, a description of the application evaluation procedure for the acquisition of a right to conduct doctoral degree studies in science, and description of the criteria and procedures for the evaluation of doctoral degree studies in art. And now a little bit about establishment of doctoral studies. An institution to which a doctoral right has already been granted may submit a proposal to the Ministry and the Lithuanian Science Council to grant this right to one or more other institution, which would conduct doctoral degree studies together with proposing institutions. The proposal is submitted along with the institution or institutions seeking the right to conduct doctoral degree studies. Every institution has its own regulation for doctoral studies. It is very important to mention. And we have a Lithuanian quality framework in the Lithuanian qualification system. You can see on the top is doctoral diploma, after that master diploma, and you can see, I will introduce a little bit later. Qualification are attributed to the first level levels of the Lithuanian quality framework in the Lithuanian qualification system. Qualification at level 1-4 are acquired by completing vocational education and or general education programs, whereas qualifications at level 5 are acquired by completing training programs intended for people with a vocational qualification and professional experience, higher education programs not leading to a degree and or professional experience and independent study. Quite completely implement 5 level. Do you know, it is like higher education level, but not at all. It is a very interesting level. For us, it is completely level. Level 6, qualification are acquired by completing cycle 1 of a university or college studies, and in case and according to the procedure specified in legalization by completing study or requalification programs not leading to a degree. Level 7 qualification are acquired by completing cycle 2 of university study or integrated study programs. In cases and according to the procedure specified of legalization by completing study or requalification programs not leading to a degree. And level 8 qualification are acquired by completing doctoral degree studies. And doctoral degree studies take place in doctoral or joint doctoral committees, which may be established by universities, institutes, or a combination thereof. A foreign institution is also desirable. The members of the doctoral committee must meet certain requirements set by the Ministry of Education, Science and Sport of the Republic of Lithuania. And right of conduct doctoral degree studies is granted to a university or university together with other Lithuanian universities and or research institutes in field of science in which we conduct high-level research. The evaluation doctoral degree studies in Lithuanian research are studied institution every 6 years. The right of conduct doctoral degree study in art is granted to university in field art based on the assessment of its level of art and scientist activity. The council evaluated doctoral degree studies at the universities every 4 years. In principle, the procedure is a following. The establishment and evaluation of doctoral degree studies is carried out by Ministry of Education, Science and Sports of the Republic of Lithuania or its subordinate institution, Lithuanian Science Council. The doctoral study process is organized by the Doctoral Committee or the Joint Doctoral Committee. Universities, research institutes can join. Possible international derivatives. There is a joint doctoral committee are responsible administering. Institution is appointed. The doctoral degree recognized by doctoral committee and the certificate attesting to this title are issued by the institution administering the activities of doctoral committee after the review by Lithuanian Science Council. And a little bit about documents, very important resolution. It is like example. Having received the documents specified in the doctoral training authorization rules submitted by individual university or a university together with other Lithuanian and or foreign universities and or research institutes pursuing doctoral training authorization, the Ministry of Education and Science shall request the Research Council, Lithuania, or a foreign expert body to examine the documents. The evaluation criteria shall include the following: national and international relevance of the doctoral training, the research level of doctoral committee members in an appropriate field branch or fields branches, the number of scientists conducting higher level research to be involved in the provision of doctoral training, available research infrastructure, quality of a doctoral training regulation, effectiveness and efficiency of previous provided doctoral training, and the level of research conducted by institution pursuing doctoral training authorization or that of the conductors to the doctoral committees named by the institution concerned shall be assessed on the basis of the evaluation guidelines for scientific works of Lithuanian Institution of Research and Higher Education as approved by the Minister of Education, Science and Sports. An evaluating conclusion shall be worked out by the Research Council of Lithuania or a foreign expert body with 3 months and subsequently presented to the application. A doctoral degree may be awarded to an individual having successfully completed doctoral training on full-time up to 4 years or part-time up to 6 years, basis and having written and defendant thesis. The scope of doctoral degree studies was at least 20 credits from the 1st September 2011, at least 30 credits. From 1st January 2019, at least half of the members of the doctoral committee and its chairman must meet at least the minimum qualification requirements set out in the minimum qualification requirements for persons seeking to hold the position of chief researcher. The remaining members of the committee must meet at least the minimum qualification requirements for persons seeking the position of senior researcher. It is very high requirements. And doctoral degree studies in Lithuania are carried out by 14 universities and 11 research institutes. doctoral degree studies in art, 2 universities. It is date past year. The activities of doctoral degree studies in science and doctoral degree studies in art are regulated by separate regulation. And thank you. Question after the next presentation.
Dr. Zelvys, could you share your screen, please, if you have presentation? Dr. Zelvys, yeah, okay, you're here.
So you can see the screen now, yes?
Not yet, not yet. Mm-hmm. There is a green button, share screen.
Yes.
Yeah, now it works.
Okay, fine.
Great. Mm-hmm.
So I was asked to talk about the role and functions of the Academy of Sciences. And this brings us to a history of 30 years, because all the main developments concerning the role and functions of the Academy of Sciences were happening 30 years ago. All the developments happened not as the outcome of any systemic reform, but it was a political decision taken at the beginning of 1990s, when the independence movement was gaining strength. The society was suspicious about the role of the Academy of Sciences at that time, though individual academicians participated in the independence movement. The Academy of Sciences was still perceived as a pro-Soviet structure. After declaring the independence, the previous system of higher education and research had to be reorganized, and 3 groups were simultaneously developing possible ways of transformation. The first group was the Presidium of the Academy of Sciences, the second group was Lithuanian Scientists Union, and the third group was Department of Science and Technologies at State Planning Committee. And all these 3 working groups suggested different ways of development. Presidium of the Academy of Sciences suggested to transform the Academy of Sciences into an institution with powers similar to those of the Minister of Science. Well, making all decisions concerning funding, concerning doctoral studies, etc. Lithuanian Scientists Union suggested to implement the principle of self-governance of researchers through the establishment of Lithuanian Research Council. Well, Vilija in her slides called it Lithuanian Science Council. I called it Lithuanian Research Council. In Russian it sounds Nauk, Академия наук и Совет по науке, да? Lithuanian Research Council. The working group of the Department of Science and Technologies at State Planning Committee suggested to integrate scientific research institutes into higher education institutions, or to make them independent institutions. And Academy of Science retains the function of a collective expert body. And the system of scientific names and degrees is reorganized in accordance with the international practice. The first government of the independent Lithuania chose to follow the strategy developed on the basis of suggestions of Lithuanian Scientists Union and Department of Science and Technologies at State Planning Committee. Well, again, the government didn't trust the Academy of Sciences because of its apparent lack of loyalty to the newly independent state. The main argument was that they still received funding from Moscow. And naturally, the scientific community also didn't trust the Academy of Sciences because the members were elected by a narrow circle of academicians. De facto, it functioned as an elite club because the new members were elected by the old ones. Within the context of creating a democratic society, it seemed inappropriate that a small group of club members should govern the whole scientific community. These were the arguments at that time. The legal basis. In 1991, the law on research and studies defined Academy of Sciences as public institution and a collective expert body. Scientific research institutes, earlier affiliated with the Academy of Sciences, became independent and started to get funding not through the Academy of Sciences, but directly from the government. Eventually, most of these institutes merged with the universities. Lithuanian Research Council, which was defined in a new law as collective body of self-governments of scientific community, started to function by the end of 1991, and the Lithuanian Research Council overtook many of the functions of Academy of Sciences. Lithuanian Research Council was considered to be a more democratic institution because of its wide representation. 2/3 of the council were elected by the academic community and 1/3 appointed by the parliament. From the very beginning, there was a tension between the two institutions, and the Academy of Sciences made several attempts of restoring its former status and power. However, it didn't succeed. Well, again, when we look at the history, there were some interesting moments when first expertise of research activities were made by both institutions, by the Academy of Sciences and by the Research Council. And all the time, the conclusions of these expertise were different. When Academy of Science said positive, Research Council said negative, and vice versa. So these two institutions couldn't find a common agreement. Both institutions were, and to a certain extent, are still criticized by the academic community. Critique of the Academy of Sciences. Critics observe that some members of the Academy can't be considered as productive researchers in the field of expertise. They are retired, don't teach anymore, and have few publications in the Web of Science scientific journals. They also don't cover all research fields, and when Academy of Sciences is asked to make an expertise, they have to hire external experts. Members are elected for life, which means that they get regular salaries for the rest of their life, no matter whether they are active scientists or not. So this is the critique which we heard from scientific community. However, Lithuanian Research Council also has its deficiencies. Elected members often seek to defend the interests of particular groups of scientists. For that reason, it's difficult to reach a common agreement on the development of science and technologies. 1/3 of the Research Council is appointed by the Parliament and does not represent any particular interest group. These members are supposed to defend the interests of the state, but they usually take the passive position during the debates. So, in fact, they are malfunctioning. What is Lithuanian Research Council doing nowadays? It provides consultancy to the parliament and the government on training researchers and expert evaluation of scientific activities. It organizes and provides R&D funding on a competitive basis. So, speaking in simple terms, it keeps the money and distributes the money, which is very important. What is important for us? It organizes evaluation of R&D and doctoral studies and presents reports on its effectiveness. And it encourages development of scientific activities, contributes to raising the prestige of science and forming positive public opinion. What is the particular role of Research Council in doctoral studies? Partially, Vilija was talking about that, but I will just add a little bit to that. What is important? Lithuanian Research Council evaluates capacity of university, or several universities, because we can have a consortium of universities, to deliver doctoral studies. And Vilija a little bit talked about the procedure, that they invite experts, they make expertise, and then experts give recommendations to the Ministry of Education and Science. In case of positive evaluation, the minister grants the university, or a consortium of several universities, the right to deliver doctoral studies and award doctoral degrees. After that, it's totally up to universities how they organize the procedure. And when the doctoral dissertation is defended, the diploma is signed by the rector of the university, and it may be even a case when after a defense, a new doctor gets diploma right away if the rector is here and can sign it. No things like attestation commission, Vyššąją atestacionная komisija, or something of that kind exist anymore. If there are some problems concerning the defense, if there are some cases of plagiarism or other problems, university has the right to recall the doctoral degree. But again, it's the right of the university. What is Research Council doing in assuring the quality of doctoral studies and doctoral defense? The right to deliver doctoral studies and award doctoral degrees is granted for a limited period of time. Vilija also told about it. Every 6 years, Lithuanian Research Council repeatedly organizes evaluation of doctoral studies. And if the Research Council, well, experts of the Research Council note that the level of research in this field is falling, it can't prolong the right, and the minister doesn't sign the permission to prolong the studies. Well, it doesn't happen very often, but that possibility exists. So the role of Lithuanian Research Council in monitoring the process of doctoral studies and defending doctoral dissertation, well, is important in this sense. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Now the floor is open for the questions.
Can I would like to add a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
When I read our report, I understood that we didn't introduce our evaluation, our system, and I think it is very important for Armenian. Mm-hmm. You can check and did not make our mistakes, some mistakes, and I think now you have more or less systematical approach to our system of doctoral study. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you. Thank you. So this platform is exactly for discussing the mistakes. It's really very interesting, the case of Lithuania for us as a post-Soviet country. So I do think that today and tomorrow we will have opportunity to discuss which you consider mistake, which you think we should also repeat. Are there any questions? I do not see questions here. No question.
A lot of questions. Hello, good day. Hello. Good day.
No, there. Yes, Tigran Mikhailian, yes. Could you?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. So first of all, I would like to greet our dear guests from Lithuania. It's a unique opportunity to get acquainted with the research system and the culture of research in such a unique Baltic country. And as Arivik has highlighted, and she is absolutely right, this is particularly closer to our experience and to our own needs and requirements and to the path that we're looking for. Besides, of course, I would like to restate with whom we're dealing with, really great experts. And I've had a chance to get acquainted with Professor Zelvys's papers, and they're really impressive. And it's an honor to have you as speakers and trainers within this training. Thank you so much. So my first question, before asking the question, of course, thank you so much for being so sincere and open in discussing your defects, problems, drawbacks, and the slippery road that Lithuania has covered so far. My first question is, so Professor Targamadze started introducing the whole process, stating about a very important strategic document that was developed by the Seimas, by the National Parliament. I would like to ask you whether people who were in charge of developing that document highlighted any priorities for research, like mainstreams. Were you thinking about priorities while developing that strategy? And you both, what do you think? Is it important at certain level to prioritize any areas or fields of expertise or scientific research that you would like just to prioritize or to highlight in order to coordinate the process of research? So that's the first question, about whether we should, or it's relevant or it's effective to prioritize any field of expertise or knowledge in strategic documents. The second question is, again, Professor Targamadze spoke about the autonomy of doctoral studies and the regulation of the studies. Can you remember any case of discrepancies or disagreement between the national strategy and that autonomous regulation that the universities, Lithuanian universities, have had so far? And the last question, sorry, sir. The last question is, it was just great to hear that Lithuanian Research Council requires some foreign experts to be involved in the process of endorsement or approval of different studies. How do you choose them, and how do you get oriented? Like, are there any guidelines? What kind of institutions could be there? And what does Lithuanian Research Council pay attention to while revising those documents, like the content, paperwork, standards, or methods of research, or just the curriculum? So when they grant the scientific center with the respective authorization to continue the research studies, what do they pay attention to more? To the content of dissertations, paperwork that has been completed so far, or methods that have been applied? Which are the, what is the outline, what is the agenda of the work? Thank you so much, and thank you all again for your sincere and open presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you repeat the first question?
Yes, while developing the strategic document on research and developing doctoral studies, did the members of parliament, people in charge, the group of expertise, did they prioritize any fields of knowledge or mainstream of research to be carried out in the future, while just planning it between, as far as I remember, 2014 and 2030? Did you have any schedule, like national schedule for priority fields of future or further researches, or you didn't mainstream any further or guided any further research for allocating funding, state funding, and support?
Yes, first question, it depends of field of science. Now we have new program. It is National Program of Progress, and it is very important program for us. They point mainly technologies, biotechnologies, and business, science and business questions that they will be more closely. And I don't know, is this document in English, but it is very important and interesting document. I think it is useful for your country? And second question is about research and conflicts. Yes, autonomy and conflicts. Yes, we have conflicts. Especially, we don't like some requirements. For example, I don't understand why I need to publish in some databases, or sometimes we want to invite foreign experts in our committee, but our requirement it is adequate, the curriculum, CV, and do you know, we have conflicts, but we try. We try to do our best in this field. And second question is for Rimantas Zelvys, yes?
Well, I will just continue what Vilija started to say. Yes, there are some mismatches between the legal requirements and the autonomy of universities. And it doesn't happen often, but then the conflicts are being solved on a legal basis. And for example, our constitutional court has taken at least several decisions concerning autonomy of universities, because autonomy of universities is in our constitution. If universities think that autonomy is being threatened by some legal acts, then they apply to the constitutional court. And we have, not long, but we already have a tradition of constitutional court decisions concerning autonomy of universities. Whether the autonomy of universities by this or that legal act is being affected in some way. Now about the third question. What are these experts looking at? Sometimes for us it's also a question. We're not sure. But of course, there are some regulations. There are some points which experts are looking at. First of all, the first part of their work is looking at the self-analysis of university. It means that at the very beginning, university provides self-analysis of their doctoral studies, with all the publications, with all the qualifications of their professors, with all their activities and other things. After that, after experts get acquainted with all these materials, they physically come to university. They speak with professors, they speak with administration, they speak with doctoral students, and they are looking at some doctoral theses as well. Not all, of course, because it's impossible, but just they choose several cases according to their own understanding, maybe some of the best and some of the worst. They're looking at them and they are making their conclusions. After they make their conclusions, universities get their report, and if universities think that the report is not fair, and there are some factual mistakes, they can apply. And they point out the possible mistakes of the group of experts. And if there are factual mistakes, they can be corrected. But usually experts don't change their final conclusion, no matter how loudly you protest. That's
okay. Okay, I would like to add that especially about Vilnius University. Vilnius University has a special status. Its status is approved by the Seimas and equivalent to the law on higher education and study. Do you know, it is very important, and in this field we can apply to the constitution.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions. The next question, Artyom Grigoryan, please.
Thank you very much for this opportunity and for nice presentations. And I have seen smiles along your presentations because we realized similarities in the systems, especially talking about me. My question is probably about this similarity and your further progress and evolution. Especially as I understand now in Lithuania, there is just one doctoral degree. Could you please describe the transition process from the Soviet one, which had candidate and doctoral degrees separate? How smooth was it and when it happened? Because I guess we are approaching to similar change. And the other question is whether it is, if we can say so, in trend to defend and the thesis and to have a scientific degree. Because in my opinion, one of the most important problems of post-Soviet or Soviet era of degrees was that it was necessary to have a thesis for certain positions, which are not really related to science. But since some positions require that, lots of people were trying to somehow get to this degree and then forget about science. So that the main thing when I'm thinking and reflecting on how can we improve something is try to purify those who really are in science for science rather than for some positions. So that my question is whether it is in trend also in Lithuania or you somehow purified this, if I was clear with that. Thank you.
Okay, maybe I can answer the first question because when all these changes were taking place, I was vice rector for research, so I had to deal with all the time with that. There were several changes regarding doctoral degrees. The first change was more formal when we changed the titles. We used to have Kandidat Nauki, Doctor Nauk, Candidate and Doctor. We changed that to Doctor and Habilitated Doctor. But in fact, it was more formal procedure, which was in 1993, I think, again, very long ago, but still we retained these two-level degree system. For a decade, we were discussing whether it is still relevant to have these two levels. Well, opposition was strong. Of course, professors, habilitated doctors wanted to keep that system, but the general trend, global trend was towards one-level degree. And finally, in 2003, we decided to switch on to one-degree system, PhD or doctoral. As a compromise, meeting the requests of those who were in favor of two-level degree, we left some intermediate option, which we called the habilitation procedure, which in fact means that if you are a doctor and if you want to go further in your professional career, you can undergo habilitation procedure, which is not defense of a second dissertation, but presentation of the compilation of your research works. Well, it was a strange procedure. People even don't know how to react to that. If you congratulate a person who underwent habilitation procedure, with what we have to congratulate? Undergoing the attestation or what? So this intermediate period was strange and it couldn't last long. And at last, the year 2009, we finished with these habilitation procedures and left with just one degree, doctoral degree. Now, to what extent it is needed? Again, as we remember from Soviet times, in order to have full professorship, you needed to have this second degree, or if you want to undertake certain position, you needed this second degree. Now, of course, it's not relevant anymore. Everything depends on your research input. if you are granted the name of professor, it's not for life, it's for 5 years. After 5 years, you undergo the process of attestation, and if you meet the qualification requirements of a professor, you continue to work as a professor. If you don't, you have to occupy some lower position, docent, for example. So therefore, now having the degree, especially this second level degree, is not as important as it used to be. Of course, when there are competitions to take some position, it may play a certain role. Doctor is always being better evaluated than a person without doctoral degree. But it's not a rule.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to add, do you know, candidate nauk, it is associated professor and full professor, yes. His question is it good or not? 1 degree or 2 degree, it is better. It is question, I think, very interesting and very important. In my opinion, 2nd degree it is very good of the point of sciences. You need to write another scientific work, and you need to introduce very important systematical approach or some novelty. It is very important. Do you know, you can complete some articles and so some researches, but sometimes it is not systematical approach and not very big novelty. It was my addition. And second question, maybe Rimantas, you can try too.
Which one?
I think Dr. Rimantas covered the question.
Yes. I think I answered both.
Yeah. Here from the Ministry of Education, Tatevik Garibian has 2 questions. One concerns the funding of doctoral state funding, and the second one, admission procedure. Could you briefly present, because the time is short?
Okay.
What do you mean, establish
Tatevik,
doctoral
are you
quality,
here?
or what about establishment?
Procedure, admission procedure. And the second
maybe
question is
I understand the question. Maybe I can say in few words.
Yeah.
As universities are autonomous, the admission procedure is decided by the university. In some universities, they take exams. Again, they may be different exams depending on the university. In some universities, they provide research projects. For example, in our university, in Vilnius University, when they apply for the doctorship, they present research projects, and a commission which organizes admission evaluates these research projects. Usually competition is not very high. We have several candidates for one place. And so in this sense, the procedure is not too complicated. But again, there is no one rule how a person should be admitted. It's up to the university.
Okay, we have 4 criteria: research project, scientific articles, master's degrees, thesis, at least not 8, and interview, if you want to study in doctoral study.
Thank you. Good afternoon, first of all, and thank you so much for interesting presentations. And also, could you tell us a bit more about the state funding, how places are funded, and if you have a state places for PhDs?
Okay, I can answer. Maybe I talk too much, maybe Vilija can answer. If the university gets the right to conduct doctoral studies, each year the university gets a certain number of places funded by the government. The number of places is decided by the Lithuanian Research Council because they evaluate certain criteria. How many researchers do you have? What is the international level of your research? So mainly there are several criteria by which Lithuanian Research Council decides how many state-funded doctoral places you may have. Sorry. Besides that, doctoral students can pay for themselves, though it's not very often because it's quite expensive. The institutions can pay. I had several doctoral students where their institutions paid and not the state. For example, the college in which this doctoral student was working. So, in short, the state funds as many places as they are decided by Lithuanian Research Council according to their own criteria. And usually they give money not for the particular doctoral study, but for the whole field of studies, let's say social sciences. And then universities themselves distribute internally to what social sciences, how many places to what subjects do they allocate.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Paula, you have a question?
It is one foundation too. You can apply to the competition, to the Council of Science. Do you know, sometimes it is target groups, and it is very small possibility.
Yes, this is still another possibility to apply to the Research Council for some special grant, but these are rare cases.
Yes, it is small possibility.
So definitely, if you say that the council is deciding that after several years, that this procedure will, university goes the procedure in a way that performance, checking the performance, and then state or the state can fund more or less places according to the performance of the university?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Pidia, would you?
Yes, thank you very much. A really interesting presentation, and also the case study of Lithuania is rather interesting. I have a couple of questions about the Lithuanian Research Council. Who is actually voting or appointing the members of this council? Maybe you mentioned during your presentation, but I missed them. And this is also with the aim to evaluate if there is any conflict of interest between the universities and the LRC. This is just to clarify this aspect. And if in the Research Council, Lithuanian Research Council, there are, I mean, the members are elected based, or they are selected based on, I could say, the scientific sectors. So if there is an equal partitioning among the members.
Yes, 2/3 of the Research Council members are elected by the scientific community. 1/3 is appointed by the Parliament. The Research Council has sections, yes, social sciences, mathematics, physics, etc. Well, I can't say exactly what the proportions are, but there more or less all fields of research are represented. Well, as usual, different representatives think that their particular field is underrepresented. We representatives of social sciences often complain that Lithuanian Research Council cares only about hard sciences, but I think it's common.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question, Diana Balasanyan. Oh, sorry, Radovan. Dr. Radovan is here. Radovan Stojanovic, are you here? You have a question to Dr. Rimantes?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm here. Do you hear me, yes?
Yeah,
Yes.
we-
Okay, first of all, it's very, very good discussion that we had, especially from our colleague from Vilnius University, giving Lithuanian model of PhD studies, some transformation from Soviet model to a new one. Also from our colleague, we had very good presentation. And what I want to point like external expert to, we are speaking too much about the previous model, the problems of the previous model, now about the new model and so on. That is very good to take one state of the art and in the some problem point of view. But how I see the problem of this, I don't know now. Renatas, the status of Lithuanian Academy of Science has any influence in PhD studies in Lithuania or not, and so on and so on. But the topic of this seminar is more oriented, let's to say, even by the project, to the marketplace of the PhD studies. And here I see the problem in all post-communist countries. The academies of the science are not on the market. They do not care for any market. They have even special status in my country, in other Balkanian countries. They have, as example, special law. Can you imagine that we have the law about the academy? We have the law about the national parks, and we do not have the law about the universities. Because universities is in the legal status together with kindergartens and so on, and only one department is responsible about the matters of university, though usually the departments of higher education. I would like to hear through the discussion of these projects how we can put all them, academy, university, council of the research, on the market, to be connected with the industry, to be connected with real life, to apply for the projects, not to have any privileges here like we have. Also, take some models from academies of science and this candidatura that you had and so on, because by my experience, I saw that by the reform, we lost the component of opponent. Today, doing PhD is doing PhD without any opponent opinion. Even supervisor of PhD is always the member of the committees and so on and so on. Some solutions before was from this, some, let's to say, point of view, more fair, that supervisor should be excluded from the committee, that you had the opponent troublemaker and so on and so on. We lost this component that, from my opinion, should be returned through the reform of PhD studies. I want only to ask Renatas how he see, let's to say, this problem of the putting the other research subjects or educational subjects like economy, like Academy of Science in this post-communist country in some competitive higher education system and so on and so on. Thank you.
Well, frankly speaking, it's really difficult to say how to return the Academy of Sciences back to the marketplace. Well, if it was at any time.
Yes, it's past.
Yeah, it's already past. Well, these people, members of the Academy of Science, they are really distinguished scientists who have made an enormous impact on the development of science at some time in the past. But currently, as I said in my presentation, well, it's more of a distinguished club of researchers, but the Academy of Sciences, well, I am not sure that it can play any practical role besides being the moral authority for the research community.
Yes, I fully agree with you, but sometimes we do not have output of the Academy of Science in our countries that we expect from them. Sometimes they are, less to say, more or less to say, fashion things, playing the games with politics and so on, and doing some the job, and I think that they should be included, but finding some, less to say, good model for transforming know-how and their experience. As now, I don't know in Lithuania, but in other countries here in Balkan region, the Academy of Science is, less to say, honorary body, receiving money for nothing, and giving some, less to say, strategic visions of development of the countries and so on.
Okay. Academy of Science has not directly influenced to the doctoral study in Lithuania. And sometimes I think that Academy of Science is like a refreshment from Soviet time. But do you know, Professor Rimantas explained, I think, good for Academy of Science. It is possible to develop some joint projects, and we will do it. For example, university with Academy of Science, we have some small foundations, and so, but we are not main player in our field.
Okay, for the other countries,
I should interrupt this discussion because we're really out of time, and we need to take the very last question from Christina Sorikian. Please, short questions because we're out of time and we're really...
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I would like to greet all the participants of the project, and thank you very much for your invaluable contributions. My question is actually about the outcome of the reform that you've been presenting to us today. Can you detect any qualitative change in both research and education, university education, after the integration? So this is the question. Do you see any qualitative impact after the reform? Thank you very much.
So, Vilija, who will answer? Well, maybe I can say very shortly that all these reforms that we were talking about, they happened several decades ago. So, in fact, from the time perspective, it's not easy to evaluate. Now, we think that during the last decade, nothing very significant happened. But when we look backward, of course, we see that granting universities the powers, it was really essential qualitative shift in our higher education sectors. Giving power to the university, trusting universities, having no controlling or monitoring institutions like Vysšoji atestacioninė komisija или там Department of Higher Education in the Ministry. Well, getting rid of all these controlling institutions, I think it really made a difference. And universities are much more responsible for what they are doing in the field of research and in the field of doctoral studies.
No, but sometimes happened that our PhD thesis is not very high quality. But we have some regulation system, and you can lose your doctoral committee.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions, and thank you for sharing, sincerely sharing your experience, tremendous experience. We should break now for some 20 minutes up to 3 o'clock. we will restart the presentation with the presentation of Portugal. Dr. Eduardo Cardoso is already here, and he will present the policies and structures of doctoral education in Portugal. So we will restart the discussion and training at 3 o'clock sharp. By the way, you may not sign out, you just mute the microphone and the video.
Thank you.